Hi everyone and welcome back to your channel Lawpedia. So in this particular video we'll be covering one very important case law from the perspective of your constitutional law. So in the coming few videos I have planned to cover a few cases of constitutional law and then we'll be starting up with some of the topics of your Indian Penal Code. So before moving forward and understanding the guidelines, we need to understand the story behind the case, or also known as the facts of the case. How did this case actually emerge and how Supreme Court dealt with the custodial violence subject? The executive chairman of the Legal Aid Society, West Bengal, addressed a letter to the Chief Justice of India. So basically, there was a letter addressed by the executive chairman to the Chief Justice of India, drawing his attention to certain news items published in two newspapers regarding deaths in police lockups and custody. So basically, there was a news item that was published, and the executive chairman just addressed a letter to the Chief Justice of India stating the same. So the letter basically addressed to the Supreme Court to deal with the issue of death in police lockups and custodies. And it was also requested that letter along with the news items be treated as writ petition under public interest litigation category. So the basic issue that was to be dealt in the case was of custodial violence. Custodial violence, including torture and death in the lockups, strike a blow at the rule of law, which demands that the powers of executive should not only be derived from law, but also that the same should be limited by law. So, the court observed that the powers of the executive should not only be derived from law, that means we should not only operate on the rule of law, but the powers should also be limited by law. That means there must be certain reasonable restrictions when we are talking about the powers given to the executive. And if we see in all custodial crimes, what is of real concern is not only infliction of body pain but also mental agony that the person has to go through. Now, if you read, there are two kinds of protections provided to persons for protection of their life and liberty. First is the constitutional protection given under the Fundamental Rights chapter, and second are the statutory provisions provided in your Code of Criminal Procedure. Now, firstly, the Article 21 provides that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to the procedure established by law. So, when you're reading the expression life or personal liberty, it will also include right to live with human dignity and would also include guarantee against torture and assault by the state or its functionaries. So the term that you're reading in the Article 21, that is life or personal liberty, it has a wide ambit and it will also include guarantee against torture and assault. So this is the first protection if we are seeing the protections provided under the Constitution. The second would be your Article 22 that guarantees protection against arrest and detention in certain cases. And the third would be your Article 20 Clause 3 of the Constitution that lays down that a person accused of an offence shall not be compelled to be a witness against himself. So these are the broad protections provided in the Indian Constitution when we're talking about the life and personal liberty of a person or a person who is detained or arrested. Now, the statutory protections to the person arrested are provided in the Chapter 5 of the Criminal Procedure Code 1973, which basically deals with the powers or arrest of a person and the safeguards which are required to be followed by the police to protect the interest of the arrested person. So basically, if you read Chapter 5 of the Criminal Procedure Code, you will understand it deals with a holistic mechanism. How will the arrest be conducted? What are the safeguards that the police officer need to follow while conducting the arrest? And what are the various steps one needs to follow while the arrest is done? Chapter 5 will include sections such as Section 41, which confers powers on any police officer to arrest a person under circumstances specified without any order or warrant of arrest from a magistrate. Section 46, which basically deals with or provides the method and manner of arrest. It will also include section 49. Under section 49, the police is not permitted to use more restraint than necessary to prevent the escape of a person. So here comes an important component of the protection of life and liberty of a person, that a police officer cannot use more restraint or more force than required to prevent the person from escaping. Section 50 states that every police officer arresting any person without warrant to communicate to him full particulars of the offense for which he is arrested and the grounds for such arrest. Further, if you read the case, you will understand the court has also observed that police is no doubt under a legal duty and has a legitimate right to arrest a criminal and to interrogate him during the investigation of an offense. However, law does not permit the use of third-degree methods or torture of accused in custody during interrogation and investigation with a view to solve the crime. So the court has also said, even though police is in very much power to arrest a person and to interrogate him, in no way we provide that such third degree methods should be used in order to solve or prove the crime. And court states that end cannot justify the means. That means just because the police officer need to extract that particular confession from the person, or the crime needs to be solved, or the punishment needs to be given, that cannot justify the means the police officer is using. That means if you want certain crime to be proved, or if you want the murder charges to be proved, you cannot go on using any means you want to. That means you cannot use custodial violence for the same. Thus, now we come to a very important slide for today. So these are the 11 important guidelines that had been issued in the case. Now, if you read, the first guideline states that the police personnel should bear accurate, visible and clear identification and name tags. That means the police personnel who is carrying out the arrest and handling the interrogation of the arrestee should bear an accurate, visible, clear name tag with their designation on it, and the particulars of all such police personnel who handle interrogation of the arrestee must be recorded in the register. The second guideline was, police officer carrying out the arrest of the arrestee shall prepare a memo of arrest, and such memo shall be attested by at least one witness who may be either a member of the family or a respectable person of the locality. And please note, such memo of the arrest shall also be countersigned by the arrestee and shall contain the time and date of the arrest. So that's the importance of the memo of the arrest. The third guideline was, a person who has been arrested or detained and is being held in custody shall be entitled to have a friend, relative or any other person known to him being informed as soon as possible that he has been arrested and is being detained at a particular place. That means any known person, that may be a friend, that may be a relative or any other respectable known person of the arrestee, shall be informed about the arrest or the detention of the person. Now the next guideline dealt with the time, place of arrest and the venue of custody. It basically stated that the time, place of arrest and the venue of custody of an arrestee must be notified by the police where the next friend or the relative of the arrestee lives outside the district or town through legal aid organization in the district and the police station of an area concerned. That means where a person's known friend, relative or any other person lives outside the district. So the time, place of arrest and the venue of the custody of the arrestee shall be notified through a legal aid organization. So it's just a guideline to make sure that the friend or the relative of the arrested person is aware that yes, your known person has been arrested or detained by the police. Now the next guideline is, the person arrested must be made aware of his rights to have someone informed of his arrest or detention as soon as he is put under arrest. That means, let's say a person A has been arrested. Person A has a very much valid right that his friend B or his nearest relative B should be aware that he has been arrested or he has been detained and kept at so and so place. The next guideline dealt with entry in the diary. That means an entry must be made in the diary at the place of detention. regarding the arrest of the person, which will also disclose the name of the next friend of the person who has been informed of the arrest and the names and particulars of the police official. That means a proper diary entry should be maintained about who's detaining person A and whether person A's friends or somebody in the family has been informed that person A has been arrested by so and so police officer. So such a diary should be maintained and such entry should be made. Next is the arrestee should also be examined at the time of the arrest, and all the major minor injuries should be recorded in order to ensure that there are no major injuries that are inflicted by the police officers themselves because of which the arrestee or the person detained suffers. Next and very important guideline is medical examination every 48 hours. That means the arrestee should be subjected to medical examination by a trained doctor every 48 hours during the detention, just to ensure that the health of the arrestee is maintained and it's not impacted by the detention or by the arrest. Next guideline is copies of all the documents should be sent to the Ilaka magistrate for his record. The next guideline is permitted to meet the lawyer. That means the arrestee may be permitted to meet his lawyer during interrogation, though not throughout the interrogation. That means if a person A has been arrested, A will have a right to meet his lawyer during the process of interrogation. And the last guideline deals with police control room. That means a police control room should be provided at all district and state headquarters where the information regarding the arrest and the place of custody of the arrestee shall be communicated by the officer causing the arrest within a period of 12 hours. So basically, to record the information, to keep a check on police officers, a police control room should be provided at all district and state headquarters. Thus, in the end, court stated that the requirements or the guidelines mentioned in the case flow from Article 21 and 22 Clause 1 of the Indian Constitution and need to be strictly followed. And any failure to comply with the requirements or the guidelines that we have just discussed will make the official liable for departmental action and also render him liable to be punished for contempt of court. So that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe if you are understanding the content. And if there's any doubt pertaining to the case that we just discussed, you can put them down in the comment section down below. And stay tuned for more such case law videos, and then we'll be starting up with the Indian Penal Code and their case laws. Till then, stay home, stay safe and keep learning.